Yay Networks.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy!
Happy Wednesday, Great Girlfriends. I hope you are having the absolute best day of your life. If you have not, you need to turn it around, find something new and exciting to do, like getting into this episode of the podcast. Speaking of which, if you are not subscribed on YouTube, I want to encourage you to go over to YouTube now and subscribe. We have so many people listening, but we don't have as many people viewing, and we have guests looking as fine as mine. As fine as mine. You need to watch the show. So do go over to YouTube and subscribe now. Also, leave your iTunes reviews just saying how much you love the Great Girlfriends and that you love the community and all the wonderful things that are happening here. And you want to know what I'm talking about today. It's good. It's good. It's so good. I'm sitting with a woman who really struck me as amazing when I read her bio, and I came to understand the why behind the work that you do. And so I wanted you, and let me just say this out loud. Let me say this to the people. This has got to be one of the most gracious women.
So funny.
One of the most gracious women in the history of gracious, because this episode, maybe it's not overdue, maybe it's right on time, but it was months and months of trying to get the right date on the calendar, and then I think there was a cancellation or something of the sort, and Danni Amapoundcake Adams refused to give up on being on the show with me and having this time with you all to talk about how you quiet your inner critic. And so I'm super happy to have you here, Danni, because of course, obviously, I've had a chance to encounter your spirit, your energy from your Instagram and watching various interviews and kind of getting behind the scenes of your story of being a writer, a coach, a speaker, an activist, and a body positivity I should say coach or activist, right?
Body image coach,
Body
yes.
image coach and a media influencer. I've had a chance to experience your work, and I've also had a chance to kind of get a sense of who you are as a woman and form my own opinions about your amazingness. And so I really did. So when I saw her, I was like, give me a hug.
You did do that.
Give me a hug.
Felt good.
Give me a hug. Give me a hug, because I needed it, but I also wanted to give it to you to thank you for being so patient with us. And also, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think that as much as people will feel like women are at a peak state of confidence and body positivity in the world, I feel like women are at a peak false sense of confidence and body positivity in the world.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
I do. I feel like it's a peak false sense. I want to say that again. I think that women are at a peak false sense of confidence and body positivity in the world. My indicators of that are, one, the growing numbers of money of billions being spent in the beauty industry.
Yes.
I just feel like if we were more confident, we'd spend less on beauty, but we tend to spend more on beauty. The image perception and the body dysmorphia that we're seeing in our women and our young girls, that's happening like at prevalence. And the messages that are being communicated around body positivity are being sold, but I don't think they're being consumed. So we see it in imagery. And I do think that's progress, to see images that reflect different types of bodies, different styles of body, different ways of being, right, in our body. I don't think that we're consuming the message as much as it's being sold to us. So I love that there is this ongoing sense of activism that you have for us. And I want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to think that I hate the idea that we have to sell ourselves confidence. We have to purchase it up in some form, and we have to I hate that. It's such a birthright, right? It's just, I hate that we have to do that, but I also understand how this world can warp our perception of who we are, particularly being women of color. And so I do want to have I don't want to take your whole message because this you are doing the work and you're doing it so consistently, and you are challenging so many norms down to marrying yourself. How, what, who was there? What was the dress like? I have all the questions, but tell us who you are at your core. Who are you, Danni? Why have you committed to this body of work that you do? What is it that you want us to take from the work that you do on a daily basis?
Who am I? Well, my name is Danni Adams, also known as Amapoundcake, and I am from a beautiful city called Sanford, Florida. It's a little small country town outside of Orlando.
Uh-huh.
And when I think of who I am at my core is, I just think I'm a little girl from Sanford. You know, when somebody references me in my hometown, I think of the characteristics and the beauty of it. It's love. That's where I learned how to love. It's where I learned how to be in community. The things that people see me do in the world, I learned it from home. And so this little girl who had all this, opportunity and pizzazz was also, able to learn and grow. And that's who I am. Somebody who is amongst her people.
That's good stuff. Why body positivity?
Body positivity, huh? When I was in 6th or 7th grade, can't remember exactly, I was in middle school, and middle school is like a hard transition from elementary school.
Talk about it.
Okay.
Especially for girls. Yes. And
I had a cousin. Well, I have a few cousins there because, small town, everybody's around. But to speed this story up, we all were experiencing, being that we were large, my friend group was experiencing kind of people being mean to us, being rude to us. While we were kind of cool because maybe we were funny or great personalities, we still weren't the in crowd. So we created this group called Eat or Die. Came out after 50 Cent movie came out at the time. We said Eat or Die. And we would dress alike, try to do middle school girl things, change clothes. But I think that was the moment that I knew that I was really different based on size. And when I was in elementary school, that's kind of when I learned about race. Well, let me take that back. I understood size at a young age in elementary school, but I was in middle school gave me that moment where I could really embrace it and respond to it.
Okay.
I could name it and respond to it. Elementary school was because the people that I was around, majority at school were white. I was really kind of like, what is going on? Why am I not treated so kindly? Or why am I the last one who was picked to play? Or why doesn't anyone want to play dress up with me? Or why is there anything in the classroom for me? And so why I chose body positivity is because I have no other choice. When I talk about who I was as a little girl experiencing the world, even though I had all this pizzazz, I also experienced shame growing up and rejection and people seeing my behaviors as disobedient and defiant because I am a big personality and school is kind of boring. It is kind of boring for a kid who wants to wear bright colors and polka dots and colorful shoes.
Right.
The black and white does get boring, especially if I already learned it. And so body positivity for me is my journey of healing. And as you mentioned before, you began to talk about how there's this false body positivity. And since I was a young girl, I was already told this is the type of person I had to be. Because I was socialized to believe that this is what dark skin, fat, nappy head little girls have to do. And I don't mean nappy head in a negative, but meaning this is your job. You must be confident for everybody, even though people don't believe that they should invest in you. It's this whole mammy trope you live out. And for body positivity for me is it's healing that little girl. So other little girls do not have to experience that, not one bit. I hope that when they think of going into a beauty supply store, that they don't go pick up skin bleaching, that they don't think that they have to pick up a certain type of texture hair, that they can have the freedom to express. And also they have the opportunity to feel shame. We're taking that from people, you know, not shame, but maybe shame. Sometimes you might feel shame. Sometimes you might feel sadness. You're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to feel great about your body. And that's me. People reject some of my videos sometimes. Some people get it and some people don't. But that's a part of being who you are. We tell everybody to be who they are. That's what body positivity is supposed to be about. Yeah. We're living in this culture. If I say to you, I don't care if I'm ugly. And, you know, you start saying, but you're pretty.
Yeah, don't say you're ugly. Don't say
But what I'm saying is, it does not matter if I'm ugly. There's this person, Vanessa, they're writing about what it means to be ugly. And I learned from their book. I can't think of their name right now, or the name of their book. But anyway, in their book, they kind of talked about in a podcast I saw that they were talking about this. They were talking about, like, what does it hurt to be ugly? Well, what is beautiful? And what does it mean? Why do we have to continue to compare ourselves to these standards and attach our worth to this standard? Okay, if people deem me to be ugly, does not mean that I'm not a great reader. It does not mean that I don't have anything to give to the world. And so I don't hold myself down to these kind of stigmas. I'm just trying to be. That's it. That's my body positivity. I'm just being.
All right. You said so much, because I think that people are afraid of being. I think that people think that being leaves you somewhere that you don't want to be. Right? You know what I mean? Like, if you are experiencing, you know, ugly, I think every single one of us, I would say, has awakened one day and got up and said, "Ooh, or you look at yourself in the mirror one angle off and you're like, "Ooh, that's not my angle. That's not."
Yeah.
Or you wake up puffy, or whatever be the case. Some days you just don't feel it. But if I stay there, if I be there, if I dwell there, that I won't come out of it. I think people are afraid of being, because it means that they're going to be rejected. First by themselves, ultimately, you know, by themselves, and then by other people, or that they're not going to, that it breaks the perception of them being something they're not. People have spent a lot of time constructing a beautiful, perfect image, and being sometimes just, it just shatters that. And so I like what you're saying about being, because I think in the state, you know, you saying that I just want to be means I want to be truthful. What's wrong with truth? Like, I think people lose the idea, you know, the value of truth is lost.
Yes.
And all these filters, all these layers, all the things that we purchase to get past ourselves.
I was on the Tamara Hall show. I went live and I was reflecting on my experience being on the Tamara Hall show, saying I was so grateful. I'm grateful. I'm glad. And I got so many messages from women said, "Girl, we don't follow you to see you cry.
What?
We follow you to make us happy."
Oh my gosh.
And so when people say they want authenticity from influencers and you must be authentic, well, sometimes I cry.
Yeah.
And why can't I cry online?
Yeah.
I'm not saying go live every time I'm sad, but if my way of showing gratitude is tears of joy, why can't I give tears of joy?
Yeah.
And I felt silence. And that's kind of how it is. Or, you know, you get that critic. People start criticizing you, and you'll start criticizing yourself. So I don't want people to feel bad because they internalize some of the things. I remember being on a podcast, and in the comment section, someone said, she's pretty, but she'll look better. In their own way, they said she would look prettier if she wore eyelashes. And so
I cannot.
When you keep experiencing things like that, or you experience things like that, even me as a content creator and as someone who is teaching body image coaching, I'm also going to feel sad sometimes. I'm also going to feel down. I tell people I'm not your confidence mammy, you know?
Hello.
I am here to give you tools that tools that have helped me, tools that my mama has given me, my grandma has given me, that's my way of teaching. You know, someone say, you probably experienced it, your auntie say, why are you looking at the ground? Ain't nothing on the ground.
Yeah.
That is somebody teaching you to put it in the confidence, but that does not mean that you can't be sad sometimes. People should be able to experience all of these emotions. You can't always be happy. At one point, when something bad happens, how are you going to be able to deal with sadness if you shut sadness out all the time?
You can't. You can't. No one, like, avoiding pain in any form will force you to have to cope with that pain in other forms, right? If I avoid pain over here, well, then I'm going to find myself binging or, eating it away or drugging it away or shrinking, isolating myself, spending it away. I'm going to find a way to, that pain has to be dealt with, whether it's in a positive or a negative way.
Yes.
And if we keep running from experiences, we only find that they amplify and they become these big monsters in our life that we can never, slay or conquer. And I think that it's unfair, Danny, and any other great girlfriend who's listening or watching, it's unfair and it's inhumane, actually, for us to expect every day to be sunny and emotionally intact and perfect and beautiful and radiant. God created the world that way, but it doesn't mean our human experience will be that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is very inhumane for me to come to you and say, give me sunshine, go. Come on, give me joy, go. Right? I think that it's
exhausting.
It's exhausting without coming into contact with your human experience and saying, how are you today? How are you feeling? How are you managing this role as an influencer? How do you feel about this space right now? How do you feel as a woman? Like, getting in contact with your humanity. I can't expect the world for you to be one way. I also can't expect for you to constantly live up to my standard of what an influencer or what a personality or even what a body positivity coach should be. I can't expect that. I can experience you, but I can't expect you to meet my stand. You've got to get all up in here to really get to the meat of that. So I'm glad that you're able to release yourself from that. And, it's interesting. I went through a period, 8 years of this podcast now, Great Girlfriends.
Yay!
8 years. And right around year 4 or 5, no, it was earlier, actually.
Okay, wait, you have to start thinking about what you're going to do year 10.
Ooh.
Yes, how you going to celebrate with year 10? Year 10. Is this a time to plan year 10?
It is a time to plan year 10. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you for that. Like right around in the 4 or 5 time frame, I had some people online saying things about, well, one, before I get to them, I had some people who are close. I'm going to say like super close, but they're close people saying things like, you have the Great Girlfriends brand, but I don't feel like you're being a great girlfriend to me type thing. And I was like, okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
All right. Then I had people online going, is it unrealistic that you can have like friendship, you can have great girlfriends? Like, is that unrealistic? Are you selling something that's unrealistic? And I'm only selling my experience. My experience is that you can have great girlfriendship. Now, if you invest in understanding what that means, it doesn't mean all sunny days.
Every day
that's not what it means. But if you think that it means, Care Bears and we all do the Care Bear stare together, then of course my definition of what friendship looks like will not measure up to yours. And those are not my people. And the people that were close to me that thought that I had to be on, do Care Bear stare all the time, constantly giving people that friendship energy, I was like, you're not my friend if you don't realize that I'm a human who is also flawed in friendship. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. But I've given myself permission to make them. You haven't given me permission to make them. So you got a problem with me and I don't have a problem with me.
Yeah.
So now we got a problem because
it's this thing I call my friend broke this down to me one day. He said, when you have a lot of light, some people expect you to be their light bulb.
All the time.
They want you to be their light bulb all the time. So they don't give you any grace. And so you can never turn the switch off.
Ever.
And their light, they don't want to turn their light on too bright.
You can turn yours up.
Yeah.
How about you turn yours up?
Okay, because I need light too. That is what being a great girlfriend is, though. Is kind of like, I'm not always going to be able to show up as my best self. And also, humans are flawed people.
Exactly.
You see this all the time online, but I'm sure you have these conversations in private where people say women sometimes will work on their romantic partnerships and neglect their friendships. And if you have grace for your partner, why can't you not have grace for your friends?
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Okay, so Danni.
Oh, okay. What?
You marry yourself.
Yes.
All the questions.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Danni, you married yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I told you, in the history of ever, I'd never, ever heard of any person. I didn't know that this was a thing that people were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that it was like permissible. Literally permissible. I don't think I knew that was something. And then I was like, well, why don't people do, like, why don't we as Black women, I don't know about this. Aside from you, I don't know about any other woman deciding to marry themselves. I want to know, did you wake up one morning? Was this a sequence of thoughts? Had you researched this? How did you get to the space where you decided to marry you?
Okay, confidently, and not until 4 months before the wedding.
Wow. Okay.
And the wedding wasn't going to happen until 4 months before the wedding.
Okay, so 4 months prior to the wedding was when you woke up and said, this is a good idea.
Yes, but there's a backstory.
Okay.
Okay, so originally I was going to marry myself like before COVID hit.
Okay.
I have this homegirl, and she's okay with me telling this story publicly.
Okay.
I've already talked to her about it. But
Okay.
But y'all say, she's talking about her friends on the podcast. No, don't do that. Okay.
We have the release. Thank you.
Okay. So, she was like, you can't marry yourself. That is for white women. Don't do that. It's going to make you look bad. Men are not going to want to date you. All of the things. I mean, what I say is she prepared me for the internet.
Oh, that's
because
good.
she prepared me for the internet. And then at the end, she said, good. Oh, she said, what are people going to say that you're doing it for your brand? And I said, well, I've already been on TV. They can't really say that.
Yeah.
Well, they can say, but it wouldn't be true.
Right.
And so anyway, I was going to do it. Then COVID hit, couldn't marry myself. And then during COVID, I got myself in therapy. And I learned a lot about myself that I wasn't healed. And so I went on this like deep journey, no sex, no alcohol, really thinking about how do I invest in myself? How do I treat myself with kindness? How do I prioritize my own needs? How do I have awesome relationships with my family? How do I spend time myself? Do I date myself? And those were the things that I began to think about and work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my therapist about this marriage for a while. And I said, I think I'm ready. And she said, girl, I think you're ready too. I wrote my vows in therapy. And the vows that I wrote in therapy, I didn't say publicly because they were more intimate to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to, but when I got there, I said, I just want to talk.
Wow.
I just want to talk. And I'm glad I did because something came over me at my wedding was like a release. So I know you want to know all about the details.
Of course.
So I told my grandma first.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell anybody my grandma is my feminist icon. Let me say it in the camera. My grandma is my feminist icon because when I was going to college, my grandma said, don't worry about boys. My grandma kind of made me think about try to really figure out yourself. Like who you are as a woman. You have the opportunity to think about who you want to be in this world. And so I told my grandma first because I thought if my grandma rejected, it might be crazy.
Because I'm over here thinking grandma's Baptist. Grandma's going to be like, girl, I rebuke that demon in the name. Like,
No,
I feel like
my
grandma's going to
grandma
say,
loved the ideal and she held my secret until I was ready to tell the whole family.
I love that.
Yes,
Come on, grandma.
that's my grandma. I love her. And so
That's so good.
yes, she did. My grandma loves me. Don't y'all talk about baby boomers. Okay.
It's in your DNA. This liberated spirit. That's your grandmother had it the whole time.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so Woman King came out and I took my parents and my grandma to see Woman King. And I said, I got a secret, y'all. well, one of the secrets was I got a radio show, but I'm not on the radio anymore. But I did a radio show, and I was like, "Oh, guys, I got a radio show." And then I said, and I got another secret. And my mom said, "Oh God, what is it? I'm nervous." My dad was like, "Oh Jesus." My grandma was smiling, and
she knew.
Yeah, she knew. And I say, "Mama, I'm getting married." My mom was like, "What? Well, we haven't met anybody." My daddy was like, "Les, come on, don't pay her any attention, you know." And so this is really how this happened. So I said, "Mom, I'm marrying myself." She said, "Oh, thank you, Jesus."
Oh no! She said, because I haven't met the person,
Yes.
so I wasn't able to approve. So I approve of you marrying you.
And so my daddy was like, "Oh my goodness." My daddy actually did not get on board really until the day of the wedding. And he had the most fun.
Really?
I mean, not more fun than me, but
Yeah.
he was like super happy. He was like, "Man, this was great."
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so why? I love yourself. Get on the journey. You know, prioritize yourself, date yourself, romance yourself, you know, give yourself the affection and the devotion you need. Why marry?
Oh, this is interesting. When I grew up, I went to so many different weddings. When you're in the church, they put you together with people you may not even want to be with. And
You're like, his head's upside down. So, no, if you lay like this, that's a good man.
that's a good
That's
man,
your
Savannah.
husband. You're like, no.
So what they did was, I always went to wedding. My family were decorators, so I would go to these weddings. And what I thought of it as, it's a big celebration for the bride. Let's be honest,
Right.
It's a big celebration for the bride, and it's also about love and commitment to yourself, commitment to this marriage forever. And I thought, why can't people do this for themselves, regardless of gender?
Yeah.
Why can't people throw this big, beautiful celebration for themselves, make a commitment publicly? And it also represented rebirth for me. Everything that happened to me before I was 30 years old and deeply traumatized. Some of it was really out of my control because I was unaware of my trauma. Now I feel like this phase of my life and the things that I do know, and I'm not going to know everything about I'm going to learn myself, but this is a commitment for the things that I do know that was holding me back, that had me scared and all these kind of things. And I was going to be free. And I was going to live this free life with myself. And I know that folks really got upset because they thought that meant that I don't believe in any romantic partnerships. And the reality is, if I didn't, that's my business. But
It is, yeah.
But that's not what I mean. Doesn't mean that I don't want to be in romantic partnerships. But I think that people should have put more intention on their relationship with themselves. Be romantic with yourself, because we've seen it 1,000 times. People get into relationships and they didn't know themselves. And 20 years later, wait, I didn't like how I turned out. I don't want you no more. I don't want this life no more. And I'm going to start this journey. I don't want that. I want to heal now. That's really what I was doing. I was breaking a generational curse. Regardless of how the world seen it, it wasn't about you. It was about me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think about marriage and I think about relationship, period. And, you know, in every relationship, and I didn't even think about this till now, but in every relationship, there's like a progression of commitment in that relationship, right?
Yeah.
And it ends up, you know, your friendships end up being, you know, the greatest girlfriends, the ones that are closest to you. In a romantic relationship, the progressions ends up becoming that you become a spouse to whomever you are devoted to. And the vows indicate that you're going to do that, sickness and health, death do you part, etc., or whenever that devotion ends. Yours, in this case, was the highest form of legal, spiritual, emotional, physical devotion that you could give to you. It's like the ultimate display of relationship with yourself by marrying yourself. And in my head, I interpret it as, I'm not saying that I don't want or desire to have intimate romantic relationship with someone else at a certain stage. I'm saying that the standard of relationship has to be as high as what I've devoted to myself.
Yes, it does. Nothing less.
I understand it. Sitting with you and experiencing you, I understand what you're saying. To me, I'm hearing this is what it communicates outwardly. I'm also thinking of the example, and I'm saying, why not? So why don't single women marry themselves in your head?
Well, I've experienced, let me say this.
What are they saying? Tell me
I've experienced a man rejecting me.
Okay.
Saying, I don't want to date a woman who was marrying herself. This was before I married myself. We were on a date and I said, I'm getting married to myself. Let you know. And he was like, that's too crazy for me. And
why is that crazy?
Well, I didn't ask any further questions.
You're not for me. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, like, I don't understand why it's crazy.
Yeah.
I understand why it's different. It's new, but it's not crazy in my head. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wasn't on a date, but these people invited me to come sit with them at a table. I was in Houston, Kelsey's hometown. I mean, your name Kelsey, right?
Casey, Dallas.
Casey, I'm sorry, Dallas. Okay, my bad, girl.
She's up the street.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was there and this guy was at a table. I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna give you some good examples. And one of the guys was there, and they were talking. We were talking about I married myself. People were asking people were they single, not blah 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 blah. I said I married myself, but romantically I'm single. This guy just laughs and laughs and laughs. I mean, he's crying, laughing, and the table becomes uncomfortable. I'm single. He's single. We the single people at the table. Everybody else in some kind of relationship. We in the same boat. Why are you laughing? But he thought it was insane. He kept saying it over and over. And I think that people are afraid to experience that kind of rejection. Like, oh, it's going to make it even harder for me to get in a romantic relationship if guys see me as weird. And then also, we're told that a man is supposed to give you this. It's just simple that someone is supposed to give you this. And I know that it could probably be threatening that, wow, this girl could pay for her own wedding, whatever she wants. She already had the wedding of her dreams. How can I give her everything else? But the reality is marriage is not the wedding.
Right. Right.
It's the relationship and it's beyond that moment. Yeah. And I grew up with married people all around me. My family is married, so I grew up with people married all around me. I know what marriage takes to stay committed. My parents have been married almost 30 years. So I know what this commitment takes. I know that it's not just a ceremony. And I think that some women might be afraid. And we're taught that self-love is a little bit arrogant. Women shouldn't be too confident because it threatens men or threatens other people. Why can't we be?
Yeah.
Why can't I be so sure of my gifts, my talent, caring for myself the way that I care for myself? Why can't I be okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah. And why does your confidence have to trouble other people? Why should it trouble other people that you make a choice that suits your lifestyle, your design, your desires? It shouldn't trouble people. So for me, that is a trigger. When people are troubled by my joy, I'm like, well, wait a minute. My joy shouldn't trouble you.
It should not trouble you.
You may not understand what it takes for me to make this choice, but it should not trouble you. It's not. That for me is an indicator of someone who has so deeply invested in my sorrow that they aren't willing to see what it takes for me to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
People would rather know that you are single and hunting and almost hopeless for someone else to give you, devotion, confirmation, love, than for you to say, I'd like to honor myself in this way.
Yeah.
I do feel like there is that space. So how does this work? You are single. You are married, but romantically single.
Yes.
I meet you. Hey, girl. Hey, girl, I'm feeling you. I want to be your man. I'm ready to take the next step. Do you then have to divorce yourself to marry me, the man, or whomever? Or okay. So how does is it more of a spiritual marriage than it is? It's not legally binding.
No, it's not legal.
Okay.
It's not legal.
You hear that, brothers?
It's not legal.
It's not on paper. So just saying. Okay. But it is a spiritual thing. So in that case, what do you think it is? And one, let me not go there. Let me ask my other question. Do you hear of men doing this? Have you ever heard of a
No,
story?
but I
Okay.
have had men reach out to me and say, I would. If
Interesting.
I would have done this. After the Fox interview, I had men reach out to me, mostly white men, say, I didn't think about how much I didn't love myself until you made that statement.
Mm.
And I mean, I was being nosy. Some of these people are married.
Oh, wow.
And we want to force people into marriages so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, people need this image. And it's okay. I think marriage is beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think marriage is helpful in our society and our community. But unhealthy marriages is just unhealthy, especially if there is someone who spends 10 and 20 years neglecting themselves.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So has your dating life been different now that you are married to yourself?
No.
So for people who think that it's going to make it less interesting for you, or it's not.
I've only had those 2 experiences. Men are still regular. I actually don't bring up on the first day, hey, I married myself.
Yeah.
I just talk about me and how I spend time with myself and get to know them. I don't spend time talking about 50-50 relationships.
Oh my gosh.
I got something else to talk about.
Yeah. Come on.
Trying to get to know the person. None of those
Yeah.
things really matter. What you should get from me is that you understand that I value myself and I respect myself. And if you want to be over here, I don't plan to stop doing that.
Mhm.
And that's it.
I'm really proud of you for taking that step, that bold, courageous step in your life, unapologetically honoring a desire that you wanted. And when I'm listening to, in my head as you're speaking, I'm going back through the tape of you as a young girl talking about the things that you dealt with that people took from you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They were, chipping away at confidence, chipping away at safety. And then saying like you didn't even know. Sometimes when you don't know trauma is trauma, that's how traumatic it is.
Yes,
When
it is. Oh,
when
my
it
Lord.
just is what it is, and you don't even know it. That is how traumatic it is. Like I just thought that was what it was.
Yes.
So that heavy weight of trauma, I just want to applaud you for taking that big, bold, audacious step in honor of you.
Thank you.
I think that it's wonderful that you can put your self-love on display in that way. I really do. I don't know why other people don't, make whatever your display of self-love, whatever the highest form of that display is, do it. I think that that's what people should do. I don't know why people would have judgment or criticism for. Well, I do know because people are crazy like that, right? The
Yes,
internet
they
is
are.
just, I don't like it there. It's just like, the comments have become war zones. And I'm like, what? Why is that? Why do you do that? But saying that to say, your choice is your choice and it deserves the respect of being your choice. Your choice, your power. And it should not trigger an insecure. Sometimes it does. When it does, we should take sign of that. But it should not trigger something in me that you've decided to make a bold, audacious step. So I want to celebrate that. I also think it is the biggest display, like you said, of your light and you being able to silence the inner critic. And we were talking at the beginning about that. How do you silence the inner critic? How does the great girlfriend that's listening that she's like, I wish I could. I wish I could feel the way she feels after going through what I went through. I wish that I could, stand so boldly the way she is sitting in the experiences that I'm sitting in now. Or I wish that, I could bring voice to the things that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Right? I wish I could say that I feel ugly. I feel it. I wish I had the courage to say it
Mm-hmm.
and it not rotten me out. Like I wish I could, you know what I mean? I wish that I could do. So what would you say to her who needs to learn how to silence that inner critic? What would you say to her today?
Well, one, I would say that you're not the only one who is on a journey to figure this out. I don't feel like I arrived anywhere on that, right? Like I feel that there's areas in my life where I know how to silence the inner critic because I've worked at it, and I believe that we have to work on it. When you understand your triggers and what makes you feel sad or what hurts you, then you know what kind of environment you got to be in. You know how to soothe yourself, all those kind of things. Like it takes practice. It takes commitment. It takes honesty. You have to be honest at some point. Yeah. The way that these things kind of came up for me was through therapy. When I was in therapy, my therapist was like, right, give me a list. Give me a sheet. I'm going to give you a sheet. And you mark on this sheet all the things that you've experienced in life. And I was like, oh, shoot. I had so many on the paper. That's how I found out, that I was deeply traumatized. And we don't take the time to really reflect on these different experiences that we have. Like, why do you believe, for me, I'll say for myself, these are the questions I ask myself. Why do you feel that the way that you speak is something wrong with your accent? Well, because TV has made fun of country speaking people all the time. I mean, we all just laughed at Cat Williams say, ain't no roles for country talking people. We all laugh, but the reality is that somebody who was 15 years old was country who want to be a comedian and be in movies, who said, oh, I got to change. That birthed the critic.
Right. Oh, that birthed the critic.
That birthed the critic. And so it's the things that we consume. And sometimes you do have to do some things cold turkey. You might have to create a process to say, you know what? I'm going to listen to less of that. I'm going to watch less of that. I'm going to speak less of that and do this. I always say this about diets. The reason why people are obsessed with diets and critique themselves so much is because it's everywhere, but you don't know what to do with the time when it's empty. Because you haven't really invested. You filled up your calendar, you filled up your schedule, and you're trying to search through perfection through all of these things. I got to get the perfect body. I got to make this amount of money. I got to drive this kind of car. I got to have my hair look this way. My man, he got to look like this, sound like this, have this kind of money. All these things. You put all this perfection on you, and there's no time for you to just be. And now the critic has been birthed.
Right.
And you're going to keep seeking things that reinforce that instead of saying, you know what? Silence. So I tell people who get on the scale every single day. They've been getting on the scale every single day since they've been 17, since they've been 25, and now they're 40, and now they're 35. Now, instead of getting on getting on the scale day one, maybe you journal. That when you feel the urge to get on the scale, you're going to journal. When you feel the urge to get on the scale, maybe you're going to take a walk instead. If you feel the urge to get on the scale, maybe you're going to color. Maybe you're going to cook. Maybe you're going to phone a friend. There's all different ways that we hold on to our inner critic is keeping clothes in our closet.
Oh, girl.
That we can't fit and say,
well, this episode's over. No, I'm joking.
It's the truth. It's the truth. We keep clothes in our closet that we can't fit, and we say, oh, I want to look like I did in high school. You're grown.
Yeah.
You're grown.
Yeah.
You're not a child anymore.
Yep.
And then we continue to criticize ourselves over and over. Every time we see it, oh, I wish. You have to remove things. That's an example of removing things out of your life.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
It's nothing wrong with investing in your overall well-being, but a part of your well-being, people are always talking to me about, you don't care about health. You're promoting obesity. And I say to myself, why don't people care about the mental well-being of folks anymore?
Right.
When I'm well, I could treat you well.
Right.
When I'm not well and you're well, you can let me know, hey girl, hey, you not well?
Yeah.
Something not going right. Check on that. Here's some resources. Let me help you. I've been noticing some things. Everything about self is not that self-help and working on yourself and working on your body image. It's not just about you, but when you start to work on your body image, the way that you speak about your body, you become less critical of other people. So working on your inner critic is about not just you, but how do you show up in community?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm teaching people, to be more responsible and lift each other up.
Yeah, we got to learn to lift each other up. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I'm so grateful
Thank you for
that
having me.
we have been able to be here together today. And I'm so inspired.
Ugh.
I am so sincerely inspired.
I love the Great Girlfriends, okay? I was not going to let up. Let me just tell y'all, she told y'all at the beginning, but I wasn't going to let up. I was like, we're going to have this thing. They're going to have to tell me it's never going to happen. And they weren't going to say that because we're great girlfriends.
That's right. It was just a matter of like the timing working out. And I'm like, I have a gift for you.
Okay.
But I'm so glad that you were that you did not give up on this, because I'm telling you, last year was crazy, as I mentioned to you before. Great Girlfriends, I'll fill you in later. It was crazy.
Okay.
I'm holding the Great Girlfriends Love Thyself affirmation cards.
Ooh.
They're available at thegreatgirlfriends.com. And I'm also holding the journal that goes alongside. And I take a card and I just write about it. Like the card says something, I pull one. I don't pull any particular order. I just grab one. And if it says something that affirms, that confirm something and I'm thinking, I journal about that. If it challenges me or if it's not landing, I write, why is this not landing? Why is this hard for me to accept?
Yeah.
Why is this something that I'm kind of, mulling over? So anyway, I want you to pull a card and just tell me what it says to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I do not poison new relationships with judgment or criticism. Ooh.
Very good. Very good. I love
This
that.
is interesting.
Okay.
This is a card, honey.
That's the way it's been all day. It's been like, oh, that's on time. But, we can do that sometimes. We can take that old data, plan it into these new relationships, and then set all these expectations and boundaries that the new relationship doesn't really deserve.
Okay, I have to say this really quickly before, I don't know if we have to go, but I have to say this. Moving from Florida to LA and being bi-coastal, but most of the time being here, it is so easy to misread people.
Yeah.
Because I've traveled a lot.
Yeah.
But I've spent most of my time in the past maybe year, and especially with COVID, in the house with my folks and or in my community. And so I know our customs.
Yeah.
I know our customs. I know our cultures. I know our mannerisms. It's so... Sometimes I don't know if I'm misreading. And so this is helpful because I heard Michelle Obama say this the other day on a podcast. She said, sometimes we can misread people. And this is like number 2.
Yeah.
This is the number 2. Okay. I hear you, Lord.
Put it on your chest. Put it in your purse. Put it on the back of your phone. Hold it tight, because you got to remember that when you are in a space where you can't really read people, where you are trying to figure out what to do with a relationship. You just let it flow, let it feel, let it be. And the ones that are meant to stick will stick. The ones that are not will find themselves near the exit. They just will. That's just how it works. As long as you're being you and you're honoring you, they have to either meet up to that, they have to measure up to that, or they find themselves quickly fading away. So I appreciate you. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Where can everyone keep up with you?
Oh, yes. Everyone can go to Amapoundcake.com or visit Amapoundcake on Instagram. That's AMAPOUNDCAKE. Amapoundcake.
I love it so much, Danni. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great Girlfriends, please go follow Keep Up with Danni. And I'd love to hear all the feedback from the episode. I can't wait to share it with you.
Yes, I'm excited.
I know some people going to be like, marry yourself, Indiana, Iowa. Great Girlfriends, make sure that you leave your iTunes review, subscribe if you have a podcast suggestion. We'd love to hear about episodes that might matter to you. And we can't wait to have you on to connect with you next week. Have a wonderful Wednesday wherever you are, near or far. Peace. All right, Great Girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends, follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends, and on Twitter at _greatGFS. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.
Yay Networks.